The cafe was unusually quiet for a Saturday afternoon. Warm sunlight spilled through the large windows, painting golden patterns across the wooden tables. At the corner, Emily Carter, the powerful CEO of one of the city's fastest-growing technology companies, sat across from her 8-year-old daughter, Lily. To the world, Emily was fearless. She negotiated million-dollar contracts without blinking and led thousands of employees with confidence. But nothing prepared her for the loneliness she saw in Lily's eyes every day. Lily had been born deaf. Since losing her husband in a tragic accident 3 years earlier, Emily had buried herself in work, convincing herself that providing a luxurious life was enough. Yet every visit to a cafe, park, or restaurant ended the same way. Other children stared. Adults smiled politely but rarely tried to communicate. Lily simply smiled back, pretending she wasn't hurt. That afternoon was no different. Emily ordered lunch while Lily quietly doodled flowers in her notebook. Around them, conversations buzzed, but Lily remained in a world without sound. Then the cafe door opened. A young man entered with a little boy of about 6 years old. The father wore faded jeans and a simple blue shirt, carrying himself with quiet confidence. His son laughed silently as they walked toward the counter. Emily barely noticed them until Lily suddenly looked up. The little boy smiled at her and raised his hands. Instead of waving, he began signing. Lily's eyes widened with surprise. Without hesitation, she answered in fluent American Sign Language. Within seconds, both children were laughing, not with voices, but with expressive hands, bright smiles, and sparkling eyes. Emily froze. She had spent years hoping someone outside their family would naturally communicate with Lily. Yet here was a complete stranger effortlessly holding a conversation with her daughter. Curious, she watched as the father approached their table after receiving his coffee. "My son wanted to ask if your daughter would like to share some cookies," he said with a warm smile before immediately repeating the entire sentence in sign language. Lily's face lit up. She eagerly signed yes. Emily stared in disbelief. "You know sign language?" she asked. The man nodded. "My name's Daniel." He gently placed the cookies on the table before signing every word for Lily. "My wife was deaf," he explained softly. "She passed away when our son, Noah, was only 2. I kept using sign language because it reminds him of her, and because I never wanted him to forget that language." Emily felt something tighten in her chest. For years, she'd met specialists, therapists, and teachers. But she had never met someone who learned sign language simply out of love. Daniel wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply making sure no child felt left out. As Noah and Lily continued signing animatedly about cartoons, favorite animals, and ice cream flavors, Emily noticed something she hadn't seen in months. Her daughter wasn't pretending to be happy. She truly was. For the first time since her father's death, Lily looked completely understood. Emily quietly wiped away a tear. "I've spent years building a company," she admitted. "But somehow, I still feel like I've been failing at being present for her." Daniel smiled kindly. "You haven't failed." He looked toward Lily. "Children don't remember expensive gifts. They remember who made them feel seen." Those simple words struck Emily harder than any boardroom criticism ever had. She realized she had been giving Lily everything except the one thing she needed most, time. When lunch ended, Noah handed Lily a small folded drawing of 2 children signing beneath a bright sun. Lily hugged it tightly. Before leaving, Daniel signed one final sentence. "You have a beautiful smile. Never stop sharing it." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she signed back, "Thank you for talking to me." Emily couldn't speak. As Daniel and Noah walked toward the door, she suddenly stood. "Wait." Daniel turned. Emily smiled, a genuine smile that hadn't appeared in years. My company is opening a foundation for accessible technology next month. She paused. I was going to hire consultants. Looking directly at Daniel, she continued, but I'd rather hire someone who understands kindness before business. Daniel blinked in surprise. I don't know what to say. Emily laughed softly. You already said everything that mattered. As father and son left the cafe, Lily slipped her hand into her mother's. For the first time in years, they didn't walk away carrying silence. They walked away carrying hope. Emily couldn't stop thinking about the encounter at the cafe. That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep with Noah's drawing tucked beneath her pillow, Emily sat alone in her home office. Her laptop displayed quarterly profits, investor reports, and expansion plans, but for the first time, none of it seemed important. Daniel's words echoed in her mind, children don't remember expensive gifts. They remember who made them feel seen. She realized she had spent years chasing success while quietly missing the precious moments slipping away with her daughter. The next morning, Emily called her assistant and postponed every non-essential meeting for the week. Her executives were stunned. The woman who had never cancelled a board meeting suddenly announced she would be spending time with her daughter. That afternoon, she accepted Daniel's invitation to visit the neighborhood community center where he volunteered to teach free sign language classes to parents and children. When Emily and Lily arrived, the room was alive with movement. There was laughter, but it wasn't heard. It was seen in smiling faces, expressive eyes, and dancing hands. Children played games using sign language while parents practiced simple conversations. Lily hesitated for only a second before Noah ran over and greeted her with an excited series of signs. She laughed and joined the group, instantly feeling like she belonged. Emily watched from the doorway, overwhelmed. Daniel noticed her expression and walked over. You don't have to stand alone, he signed first for Lily's benefit, then spoke aloud. Come join us. Emily admitted, almost embarrassed, I know the basics, but I've forgotten so much. Work always came first. Daniel smiled gently. Then today is a good day to start again. For the next 2 hours, Emily learned alongside other parents. She stumbled through signs, mixed up hand shapes, and laughed at her own mistakes. Lily couldn't stop smiling every time her mother managed a new sentence correctly. It wasn't perfect, but it was genuine, and that mattered far more. As the weeks passed, Emily became a regular at the community center. She began leaving the office earlier, eating dinner with Lily every evening, and practicing sign language until bedtime. Their conversations grew longer. Lily shared stories about school, her dreams of becoming an artist, and the loneliness she had hidden for years. Emily listened to every word, spoken through graceful hands. Meanwhile, Daniel's influence reached beyond Emily's family. At her request, he helped design communication workshops for Emily's company. Hundreds of employees voluntarily enrolled in beginner sign language classes, and the company introduced accessibility programs that made meetings, customer service, and technology more inclusive than ever before. One afternoon, during the company's annual conference, Emily stood on stage before thousands of employees. Beside her stood Lily, Daniel, and Noah. I used to believe leadership was measured by profits, Emily said. But a single conversation in a cafe taught me that true leadership begins when every person feels seen, heard, and valued, even without a single spoken word. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Then something extraordinary happened. Without being asked, hundreds of employees applauded in sign language, raising their hands and gently waving them in the air. Lily looked across the room in amazement. Tears filled her eyes as she realized that an entire crowd had learned the deaf community's way of saying, "We appreciate you." She turned to Daniel and signed, "You changed our lives." Daniel smiled and replied, "No, Lily. You reminded everyone what kindness looks like." Emily wrapped an arm around her daughter, knowing that the greatest investment she had ever made wasn't in her company, it was in the relationships that gave their lives true meaning. From that day forward, their family grew not through blood, but through compassion, understanding, and the silent language that spoke louder than words. A year passed, and the story that had begun with a simple meeting in a cafe had quietly transformed countless lives. Emily's company had become a national example of workplace accessibility. Every office included certified sign language interpreters, employee training was offered free of charge, and the company's newest communication app featured advanced tools designed specifically for deaf and hard of hearing users. Investors praised the innovation, but Emily always corrected them. It didn't begin with a business idea, she would say. It began with one little girl finally being understood. Lily had changed too. The shy child who once hid behind her notebook now walked confidently into school each morning. Thanks to Emily's support, the school introduced an after-class sign language club. Within months, dozens of hearing students had joined, eager to communicate with their deaf classmates instead of leaving them isolated. Noah, always at Lily's side, became her closest friend. Together they organized small community events where children taught adults simple signs like friend, thank you, family, and hope. Watching children teach grown-ups became the happiest part of every weekend. One sunny Saturday, the community center celebrated its anniversary. Families gathered for games, food, and performances. At the entrance hung a banner that read, "Kindness needs no voice." Emily smiled as she looked around. Parents who had once been strangers now greeted each other in sign language. Children laughed with their hands flying through the air. No one looked different anymore. Everyone belonged. Daniel stood near the stage, helping volunteers set up chairs. He looked exactly the same as the man Emily had first met in the cafe, humble, patient, and never seeking attention. The event's organizer suddenly stepped onto the stage. "We have one final surprise," she announced. Daniel frowned in confusion. Emily gently led him toward the front. A large screen lit up with photos from the past year, the cafe, the community classes, Lily and Noah playing together, employees learning sign language, families smiling, children hugging. When the slideshow ended, Emily faced the crowd. A year ago, one man chose kindness without expecting anything in return. He didn't know who I was. He didn't care about my title. He simply noticed a little girl who needed someone to speak her language. She turned toward Daniel, her eyes shining with gratitude. Because of that moment, thousands of people learned that inclusion isn't charity, it's respect. The audience immediately raised both hands into the air, applauding in sign language. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He had never imagined that offering a few cookies and a simple conversation could create such a ripple effect. Just then, Lily stepped forward carrying a small wooden box. Inside was the very first drawing Noah had given her in the cafe, the picture of two children signing beneath a bright sun. The edges were worn now, but Lily had carefully preserved it. She handed it to Daniel and signed slowly so everyone could understand. "You gave me my first friend, and helped me give friendship to others." Daniel could no longer hold back his emotions. He hugged Lily tightly before signing back, "You gave me hope after I lost someone I loved." "Thank you." Even Noah quietly wiped away a tear. As the sun began to set, families gathered outside for one final photograph. Instead of shouting, "Cheese," everyone raised their hands and smiled. The camera captured hundreds of hands lifted into the air, a silent applause that carried more love than words ever could. Emily looked at Lily, then at Daniel and Noah. One ordinary afternoon in a cafe had become the beginning of something extraordinary. It proved that success isn't measured by wealth, titles, or fame. It's measured by the number of lives we touch through compassion. And sometimes, the most powerful conversations are the ones spoken without a single sound. The end, although the celebration ended, its impact continued to spread far beyond the community center. 6 months later, Emily received an invitation from the National Education and Accessibility Conference. Organizers wanted her company, Daniel, Lily, and Noah to share how one small act of kindness had inspired real change. Emily insisted that Daniel stand beside her on stage. "You deserve the spotlight," she told him. Daniel smiled and shook his head. "I only offered a little kindness," Emily replied, "and that's exactly why people need to hear your story." The conference hall was filled with educators, business leaders, parents, and students. As the lights dimmed, a short video played, showing Lily's journey from a lonely little girl sitting silently in a cafe to a confident young speaker, using sign language, to inspire others. When the video ended, the audience rose in applause. Lily stepped forward. An interpreter voiced her signs, but everyone in the room watched Lily's hands instead. "For a long time, I thought the world was too loud for me. Then I realized the world wasn't loud, it simply hadn't learned my language yet." One person chose to learn it, and everything changed. Many people in the audience wiped away tears. After the event, a young mother approached Daniel carrying her 5-year-old deaf son. "I've been afraid for his future," she admitted. "Today, you gave me hope." Daniel knelt beside the little boy and signed a simple message. "Never believe you are less than anyone else."